Welcome back to another video from Only Copilot fans. I'm your host, AJ Ansari. Today's video is going to be a rapid-fire recap of the 10 most important announcements from the opening day of Microsoft Ignite 2025. The opening keynote was a 2-hour bonanza of announcements, of demos, and fireside chats. And I'm going to attempt to compress all of that, plus some really important announcements that slid under the radar over the course of the day on LinkedIn and YouTube, into a 15-minute video. The 10 features I'm going to cover are going to be related to the AI Copilot and Copilot Studio track, so of course I'm going to have to leave out some things that I think are not as relevant to our community. Feature number 10 is the one that I'm going to spend a little more time talking about, and that is Agent 365. But let's start from the top of the list. The first announcement that Microsoft opened the keynote with was called Work IQ. Now, Microsoft defined Work IQ as an intelligence layer that understands your business, your workflows, and your relationships, and it's made up of your data, of memory, and inferences. And as much as Microsoft kept going back to it over and over again across their various conversations around the Azure AI Foundry, across Agents and Copilot Studio, to me, it still sounds like more of an abstraction than it is really a feature that I can identify or define. Perhaps it's even a bit of a rebranding of certain things that are already in place within the Microsoft graph and within the stack. Microsoft kept harping on the point that the Work IQ can do things that a standard API cannot, because it understands context and it understands what's written between the lines. So number 2 is a set of announcements that relate to Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat. The most important announcement / non-announcement, because it didn't make its way into the opening keynote, is that Microsoft is going to be adding a new level of pricing for businesses that have 300 users or fewer and are using Microsoft 365 Business Basic, Microsoft Business 365 Business Standard, or Microsoft 365 Business Premium. And those companies are going to be able to license Microsoft 365 Copilot in a new SKU called the Microsoft 365 Copilot Business. And instead of a price of $30 a user a month, they're going to be able to pay $21 a user a month. And that's going to debut from December 1st, 2025. The next announcement within the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat, and let me jump to that, is that you're now going to be able to find Word, Excel, and PowerPoint baked right into your Microsoft 365 Copilot chat. So I've got a lot of things added, so I'm not seeing that up here. If you don't see that in the menu, you can go to the All Agents and see them over here. And this is also in conjunction with the addition of agentic abilities within Word, Excel, and PowerPoint as part of the improvements that are coming down to those products. And if you want to experience all of these, you got to just enable Frontier for your tenant by going to Microsoft 365 Admin Center, and from there going to Copilot Settings and enabling Frontier. But once you're here, you can describe the document that you want to create, reference the sources that you're looking for, or even use some of these pre-built prompts to create a multi-perspective policy analysis, etc., etc. In addition to that, Microsoft has also quietly and silently added the one thing that I thought continued to set apart ChatGPT and M365 Copilot, or even the consumer version of Copilot and M365 Copilot, and that is the voice chat. We've had the dictation feature forever, but voice chat would allow you now to have an engaging conversation with the agent. So let's give that a quick try. Hey, can you tell me about the most important announcement that was made at Microsoft Ignite 2025? It's called Work IQ. What do you understand about that?
At Microsoft Ignite 2025, one of the biggest announcements was a new technology called Work IQ. It's essentially an intelligence layer that works with Microsoft 365's Copilot to deeply understand you, your job, and your company. It's built on three pillars: your work data, like emails, files, and meetings, your personal memory, things like your preferences, work habits, and style, and inference, which connects all these pieces together to make smart suggestions and automate tasks.
So this now, I think, is going to create a much more seamless and engaging experience within the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat. And a couple of other agents that have also slowly made their way over the course of the last few weeks or months. One of those was the App Builder. If you haven't tried that, this is still part of Frontier. Here you can see I've used App Builder to vibe code a paid time off or time away tracker where somebody can request paid time off and the manager can approve paid time off request and the employee can see all of the paid time off, all the days that they have off, etc. Or there's also a workflows agent that Microsoft has added, and this allows you to almost replicate what's going on in Power Automate, but for your own purposes. So I can have a workflow that is going to tell me about some missed emails, and it can run every day. This is going to be a replacement, if you will, for a short-lived feature that Microsoft had added in M365 Copilot called Actions. And Actions was a simplified workflows engine. I have a YouTube video on that on my Only Copilot Fans channel, but unfortunately that left just about as quickly as it came. And then the most important one that was announced today that I don't have the ability to show you, it's going to make its way to the M365 Copilot agent store right over here, and that is going to be called the Sales Development Agent. Again, this one did not get announced at the keynote, but it was quietly announced on LinkedIn and with multiple YouTube videos. So feel free to check that out. Type in Sales Development Agent Copilot, and you'll be able to see it. It's basically an autonomous agent that works as a teammate in your sales force, and it can research and it can qualify and it can engage leads to help drive revenue growth. So that's a really interesting one. Frankly, as a business owner, I think if this feature is even half as good as advertised, it could be a great resource for our sales team and it could help them work faster and better and more efficiently. Let's go on to the third announcement, and that is Agent HQ. Agent HQ is going to live entirely inside of GitHub, and it's going to be a way for developers or developer managers to manage and orchestrate AI coding agents. So if you intend to use AI to write or rewrite code for you, you can manage all of that centrally using Agent HQ. That's more on the dev side, but it's still a little bit of AI, so I thought it was worth mentioning. The fourth announcement, and this is now the second year in a row we're seeing a little bit of rebranding. If you remember, we used to have what was called Azure AI and Azure OpenAI, and that had gotten renamed to Azure AI Foundry. Well, now it's been renamed once again to Microsoft Foundry. But this time it's not just a renaming. Microsoft's also added a significant improvement to the user interface. And so when you are in the Microsoft Foundry, it's still the same address to go there. You just have to enable the new Foundry appearance. You can quickly provision the Foundry resource or resources as they were, or the project actually is the word. And here you can see some new arrivals. I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit. And then you can start building an agent or also start getting code in Python so you can start building your agent in Visual Studio Code. And here you've got, among other things, the ability to evaluate your agent and select from a lot of improved knowledge sources and tools, etc. as well, and play with guardrails and also work with memory. Once again, for anybody who's not familiar with memory, you might have seen that feature in ChatGPT, and that's how it remembers certain things about you all the time across conversations. So this, I think, is going to be a significant benefit for the pro dev community or for the pro AI makers or builders community. Number 5 in our list, it is Microsoft is now going to make available or has signed up for a partnership with Anthropic. At this point, Microsoft had partnerships with OpenAI, with Mistral, with Meta, and with all the leading providers, including Google. But the one provider it did not have in its list of partnerships in the Azure AI Foundry or the Microsoft Foundry was models from Anthropic. And so finally, as you saw on the last page, you're going to be able to have Anthropic models, specifically the Sonnet 4.5 or the Cloud Sonnet 4.5. You're going to have your Haiku 4.5 and Opus 4.1 in public preview available to you in your Azure AI, or rather your Microsoft Foundry. This is a significant improvement or a significant announcement. This really makes Microsoft the largest hyper sourcer, I think is the word they use, hyperscaler, and the source for the most important or the most publishers of models that are out there on the internet today. Moving on from there, within Azure AI Foundry or Microsoft Foundry, there is another new announcement, and that's called Model Router. I really don't have a demo to show you, but basically the concept here is, instead of choosing a model or switching from a model to another model within your agent, you can choose Model Router. And what Model Router will do is it will smartly select the most effective model, whether it's the fastest or the cost-effective model for those needs, and it's going to utilize that for that particular part of that engagement that it's happening with the user or within your app. So this can allow your agents or your apps to be faster, to be more cost-effective, etc. The next one is Agent Factory. Now, this is kind of, again, a continuation of the Work IQ part. And this is basically where, with Agent Factory, you're going to be able to build agents with IQ using Foundry and Copilot Studio, bringing together Work IQ, another thing that they have created or they've announced called Fabric IQ, and Foundry IQ. Again, as I said before, I think these are more abstractions and brandings for things that were there. But basically, Agent Factory's most important highlight in all of this is, across all of these different things, you're going to be able to do shared metering. And so for the first time, you're not going to have to worry about some billing coming from one place and some other billing coming from another place. It's all going to be billed through shared metering. And I think that makes it really usable and beneficial for AI agent and app makers. The next announcement is Foundry Control Plane. And this is a tool that's going to enable developers to monitor and to optimize their AI agents. And another announcement, again without a demo, is Azure Copilot Agents. This really, really caught my attention, but unfortunately for me, there wasn't a lot in the way of a demo that Microsoft showed, but I'll be quietly following up on what's happening over there. Which brings me to my number 10 and most important and relevant feature for anybody making agents today, and that is Agent 365. So what basically is going to happen within your Microsoft 365 Admin Center is, in addition to what you had before, which was a Copilots area, you're also going to have the Agents area. And once again, if you're not seeing that, the first thing you'll want to do is go to Copilot and Settings and enable Copilot Frontier. Now over here, once you have that enabled, you're going to see your agents, and your Agent 365 overview is going to list all of the agents that you have in your tenant, no matter where those agents are coming from, whether they're made in Azure AI Foundry or Microsoft Foundry now, in Copilot Studio Full, which is basically the Copilot Studio experience, or Copilot Studio Lite, which is the agent building experience inside of Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat, or partner-created agents that are living within your tenant. Now, as soon as I saw 155, I had a couple of reactions. One, wow, did I really build 155 agents? And so I decided I was going to take a look at some of the details by exploring agents. And as I did this, I noticed, oh, a lot of these are created by external partners. And so when I published or I looked at Publisher and say publish by your organization, it only showed 3 agents. And I know I have more than 3 agents in Copilot Studio Full. So I went back and I looked at it a little bit closer, and that's when I realized these are really the only 3 that I've published. There are a lot of agents that I build and that I don't publish, or I may have published it sometimes and then I remove them and I unpublish or delete them because they were part of some testing set that I have. This tenant is largely used for testing purposes, so I don't have production style agents in here. Even these ones were done as part of a training exercise or a boot camp that I was in. And then it will also show me agents that have been created by, or what it calls shared by creator. These are agents that have been created in the Microsoft 365 Copilot experience largely, or some that have been created in Copilot Studio Full, but then shared with other people in your organization. It can also show things, agents that are missing an owner, or if there's any agents that it thinks have risks, it will highlight those. Perhaps you've got some agents that do not require authentication, etc. It could highlight those, or any blocked agents as well. Incoming requests for agents would show up over here. So if there's any agents that are awaiting approval, you can see that over here, and you can approve those agents if you need to. So as soon as this page loads, I can see here, I can update or I can reject the submitted agent, and I can handle that there. And then they've added a wonderful tool in here called Map. And Map is going to, let me leave this filtered view. I might need to exit the filtered view from here and then come back to Map. And once it loads, I've noticed it can be a little finicky at times and it won't load. But once it does load, it will show you a very nice interactive view of all of the agents that are available right now, and which ones are created by partners, and which ones are created by Microsoft, and which ones are created by you. And I found this to be a very interesting presentation. Unfortunately, it doesn't want to load now, but earlier today I was looking at that, and I was quite impressed by it. So Agent 365 is going to be a wonderful way for administrators to centrally track and manage all the agents that are in their environment. But here's what they didn't say in the announcement that is, I think, equally important. When I first came to this page, I was greeted with an opportunity to approve or to select something over here. I'm just going to bring up the screenshot. Explore the power of custom AI agents with a free trial of Agent 365. I was like, okay. And then when I hit try now, it told me something about provisioning 25 licenses. And I'm not quite sure what these licenses are, if these licenses are going to be for users or for agents, or what the story behind it is. But when I went down and I looked under billing and licenses, this is where I saw that there are these 25 agent licenses called Microsoft Agent 365 Frontier. And when I go to assign licenses, however, at this point, it seems incapable of assigning anything. I did a little bit more digging here, so back under licenses, and I said, well, show me this license and products. Let's see if I can jump from here, manage subscription details. I'll need to change my billing account. And over here, you can see that I have this for about 3 months. It says commercial direct, license-based, but I do not know what the pricing is. And I've searched high and low, and at this point, no pricing is available. So I suspect this is going to be a little bit like how Microsoft had initially rolled out Copilot Studio pricing, where there was a SKU, and it was in trial, and Microsoft hadn't really come up with what the numbers are. So we may see some of these later. So keep that in mind as you're going to play with and use Agent 365. I think this remains the most important highlight. Now, I do remember one thing I forgot to talk about when I was going over the M365 Copilot chat improvements. There is yet another agent that Microsoft has quietly made available, and you have to enable that from Copilot settings, and it is called Opal. So what Opal is a computer use agent. And let me see if I can bring this over here, Project Opal. And what this is going to do is it will allow your agent, it's a CUA, and it will allow your agent to work inside of a specifically provisioned Windows 365 virtual machine, where it's going to be able to handle complex tasks that you have assigned to it. So this, I have to imagine, is going to have a specific pricing because it's both CUA, and then there's also the cost of a Windows 365 virtual machine. I primarily use a Mac OS device, my MacBook Pro, and I don't have Parallel, so what I use instead is a Windows 365 subscription, which costs me about $45 to $50 a month, if I recall correctly. So perhaps you might at least incur a charge like that, or maybe it will be a lower spec machine. So that was my rapid fire recap of the most important announcements from Microsoft Ignite 2025. I hope you found them useful. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments down below. Please leave your thoughts. And if you haven't already hit that like button, please do so, and do subscribe to our channel as well. And tell your friends about Only Copilot Fans. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.